Where it stops, no one knows. We're going head into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. Happy Leap Day. It's Leap Day. Somebody was saying that their uncle is 81 and this is only their 20th birthday. So we're not sorry. We're not sorry. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Criminality. I'm very excited about this live. I think it's going to be extremely educational for me and for you guys, or some of you guys may already know some of this stuff, but I know it'll be very educational for me. Let me say hi to you guys, and then I'm going to bring Adrian up. So, what's up, Ashley Schaefer? Hi, Hybrid. BH, what's up, Odie Dodie? Hey, Kim. Cakey. Louise. Hey, Carla. Kelt. Lambert. Unindicted. Little gambler. You need to win the lotto. Hi, Ryan. Marissa. Lorna. Johnny. I'm sorry, Miss Criminality. I had to take them all down. I had to. Schmid. Schmida. IBR. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that, too. Hi, Chicken. Hey, Ryan. Candace. What's up, Angel? Inspector Gadget. What's up, Jojo? Hey, Tony. Sluice Investigate. Shaz. All right, Caitlin. Charmaine. All right, I'm going to probably start repeating now. Unindicted. Susie Q. Elena. Sharon. All right, let me go back down here. Hello, 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 everybody. So, today, she actually watches the channel, so you guys probably know her from being in chat. Also, Dark Arts with Adrian, or Dark Arts by Adrian. She has kindly enough agreed to come up and teach us. She's put together an amazing presentation on runes, the meaning behind runes, how you can interpret runes, anything you possibly would want to know. I think that she's going to be able to help us, and so I'm very excited to have her here because, like I've told you guys from the beginning, like this is all very new to me. So, like I said, it's going to be very educational. So I'm going to bring her up, and you guys can say hello to her, and then she can tell you a little bit about herself. But I want to let you guys know, I know that there are going to be people who come in the chat, and they're going to say, this wasn't Odin. There is no runes. There's none this, none that. I get that people believe that. That's fine. The thing that I won't have, and I've asked the mods very nicely to make sure that nobody is rude. Just don't be rude. This is for educational purposes so that we can all learn, or like I said, I can learn and learn along with everybody else. So let's just be nice. Let's just be nice. I don't want to block anybody. I don't want them to block me. I don't want them to time anybody out. Hi, Dom. Okay. Hi, Jen. Nancy. All right. Here's Dark Arts by Adrian. Hi.
Hi, guys.
I'm so happy you're here. I know we've been like talking about doing this for so long.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. This is awesome.
I don't know why you keep thanking me. I am so thankful for you being here.
Well,
and all that you put into this is amazing. I don't even know how much time this would have taken you to do. I mean, it's just incredible.
There's still a lot of stuff that I didn't even have a chance to get to, but it does take a while. So, and I'm sure I did not cover everything, but this is wonderful because it's getting out to more people, and more people then can, hopefully also bring forward what they see too, So
So you
that
tell
in
us
of
like how
itself.
you got interested in this type of stuff? Like where did like just a little bit about you and how why this interests you?
Yeah. So basically I worked at a metaphysical shop for a while, for several years. And
For us laymen, what's a
before that,
metaphysical?
like so like it they have a bunch of books on magic and crystals and all sorts of things. So and before I worked there, I was going and attending classes because they also had classes there, and they had some classes on the runes. And the guy teaching it, he actually owned the store, he and his wife. And I mean, he had been studying Norse Germanic paganism his whole life. So it was a really neat experience. I got to learn a lot. And then working at the store, I got to learn a lot. And it's always just kind of fascinated me. I I was brought up Roman Catholic, which in of itself is kind of there's a lot of overlap with a lot of pagan practices.
Oh,
I'm sure
really?
you guys kind of know the generic, like the Easter bunny and the eggs and the Christmas tree and the stockings and a whole bunch of different things like that. So it's always been interesting to look into that kind of symbolism and see where things originate from, and then kind of the ideas behind those things.
So interesting. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody for being here. And I appreciate all of you guys that are coming in right now. I know I'm not going to get a chance to say hi to everybody individually, but I'm going to bring up, I'll share the video because unless you want to go, do you want to watch the video or rather just go through the presentation?
Yeah, we can go
Which
through
one's
the
easier?
presentation. It's an hour and a half, and I do recommend watching it at least on like 1.5 speed because
I don't actually recommend that. I
oh,
needed
really?
to absorb everything you were saying. So
Okay.
your tone and cadence was perfect on a
Okay.
topic that I don't know anything about. And I typically
Okay.
do watch things on fast speed, but trying to learn, I actually liked the way that it was put together. It was
Okay.
very
Okay. Well, that's good.
because then I was like, okay, I get that. But I'm gonna put it in the chat right now.
Okay.
This is the video that she made on this presentation. And then we're going to go through the presentation, talk about it, and I will also make sure that I have this in the description when I'm done. So let
Yeah,
me
it's
pull
under a
this.
different channel name just to kind of keep it separate, I guess. People they have very strong opinions on certain things, so I was kind of hoping to keep it a little more separate, but it is what it
Then
is.
here
So.
I am like, no, bring it together.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine.
For educational purposes, and because I think it's being talked about and it's been talked about. Yes, Luthi. Well, it's a different one now. So we'll talk about that too. She's done two. She did a revision. And so, like I said, even if people don't believe that that's what this is, at least we can be educated on why we think it is or isn't. And that's kind of where I'm at. And that's where I'm always at kind of with everything in this case, is because I don't know I can't make decisions on shit that I know nothing about.
Right.
I can't just go, nope, I don't think so. And that's just how it is. So I want to learn and I want to absorb everything and
Right.
then, put my own, not spin, but my own like thoughts into it and figure out what I think of it. So yes, Luthi. So this is it. This is the revised one. So one of the things that Adrienne and I had been talking about was doing something like this, where she could come on and teach us and me about what she knows and what she sees when she looks at the sketches. It's more because you were looking at like the sketches of the runes. I think the one that True Crime Design had put up, you reference in your video. And so and I think we've talked about this on the channel before too, is the pictures. It's really hard because obviously the pictures they're not out in the public, which I'm very, very glad about, but it also makes it difficult because there's a stick that's being placed on Abby that isn't actually on Abby. It's in the forefront of the picture, meaning like somebody's taking the picture and there's a branch that's coming down like right here. And the way that the angle of the photo is, it looks like it's laying with the other sticks. So the one that's, when you guys, if you look at like true crime design, and we're going to show you some, she's got some in the presentation, but there's not a stick on Abby's right shoulder. But I think when people are looking at it or drawing it, it kind of comes out like it looks like it might have one. So her first one that she'd put a ton of work into, when I was actually feeling better and able to take a look at it, I was like, oh no, like that's the only thing, is there's just not this stick on that arm. And so she revised it, but her assessment ends up actually being very similar. So I think that worked out very well anyway. But hello to everybody once again that has popped in. Dom, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships and the super chat. I appreciate you, Dom. I hope you're doing well. Is the stick branch hanging down? It is, but you don't see where it's coming from. So it's kind of coming off the side of the picture. And like I said, at the angle of the photo, it almost looks like it could have been on her, but you can tell that it's actually closer to the camera lens and not on the ground. So that's what the whole revision ends up coming into.
Yeah.
So here is, I'm not telling you guys, she did a massive amount of work, and she's going to be running kind of this whole thing, like I said, because she's going to be teaching us. So let me just make sure this is kind of big enough for everybody to be able to see it. And I know like so there's a lot of, oh, that might be too big because now I can't fit the whole thing in the screen. There we go. So some of it's like just background on the case and things like that. So I'm gonna kind of let her take over, and then you guys, like I said in chat, I'm not gonna be paying a ton of attention to you guys, so please just be nice to each other because I really want to listen to what she has to say. Okay. Okay.
Well, yeah, that first slide is basically yeah, it's just for people that are coming into it that maybe have never heard of the case. But then it's also kind of showing why occult symbolism matters in this case. And it's because we have the 4 different, we have Robert Ives saying that at least 3 of the signatures were non-secular in nature. The Franks memorandum probably cited that whole investigative report done by Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy. And, the FBI behavioral analysis unit, they did their profile, and it turns out it had to be somebody with like some knowledge of Nordic belief. And then the Purdue professor with his Harvard colleagues. So I'm just thinking, there has to be some element here because all of these people are so credible, regardless of what we think about, I think Odinism in general, I do think that we should still consider that there's an occult element here, and it is meant to be there, and it's meant to terrify, in my opinion. Just because anything that has any sort of ritual tied to it is definitely going to, it's going to be very upsetting. So, but we can go to the next slide if you want, T.
Yeah. Whenever you tell me, you're the boss.
Okay. So yeah, this is what you were talking about. And yeah, that stick was in the foreground. So it ended up being very similar to what the Franks had described as the Hagall rune. Because initially I thought if that stick had been incorporated, it would have been very similar to the Hagalaz rune, which is from a different runic alphabet. And instead,
we'll get into that later. Right now, people are going like, "What the heck are you even talking about so far?" She gets into it, so I just want you guys to know, like, she'll tell us what those things are.
Okay. Yeah. So specifically, like, I guess like the sticks that are put on Abby, the way that they're described in the Franks memo are very similar to what true crime design has depicted here. And the sticks to me represent runic letters. For people who don't know, runes are actually letters in an alphabet. So one of the runes that they end up describing as being the Hoggle rune ends up being the rune that is on Abby, now that we take away that second stick. So I did have to go back in and make, you know, an amendment to that, but yeah, basically these were deliberately put on them, in my opinion. So, and then
And I know people are gonna
just
have a lot of questions. So
okay, yeah.
go ahead.
If there are any coming through right now, I'm happy to.
Should we ask questions like per slide, or should we wait till the whole thing's done and then ask questions? What would be easier?
We can answer some questions now, just so that it doesn't get too confusing, because it could.
Okay. So, is there anything else? So anybody who has a question so far, we can do that. Otherwise, we'll keep going. Is it true that the sticks were over and under on either end?
That's a good question.
Yes. So this stick right here, the big one, is 1, and then this one is 2, and then this one is 3. I think they're actually, I think if you pay attention to the way that it's drawn on here, you could probably tell, then that is accurate. And then this one's same thing. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. And this is the stick right here that has, when they mentioned in the memo that there's one that looks like it was cut recently. It's this one right here. You can see like it's got like the straight edge to it. So that's that one. And like I said, this one, so the photo of Abby is upside down. Like, and that's the only way I can kind of explain it. It's upside down so if you take this stick, this right here, this part is coming off of the edge of the camera, and this is hanging down, but is in front of all of those, if that makes sense. And this is why I said it's in the foreground. It's not actually laying, oh shoot, it's not actually laying on here. So these are the ones, and it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Because those were questions I also had for you, T, about if the sticks on Libby were 3 different sticks.
Yes. So this weird thing right here, this one that's going up and then over and has these things coming off of the branch, like the branches coming off of it, that's all one stick.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So they each have 3.
Okay. Yeah. And then
and the bottom one, the biggest one on both, is the first one laid down.
Okay. So do you think that was pinning down her arm to kind of have it touch the F tree?
So it's not touching the F tree. The F tree is actually on over here, I believe. Don't quote me on that, because the F tree is not in the photo. This tree is this tree that her hand is by. It is by a tree, but it's not by the F tree. So that's why there is the thought that they were killed elsewhere and put here, because Libby's blood is found on the F tree. But in the memorandum, they talk about, and I'm sorry, you guys, I know that some people are like, it's too much, but I'm just going to try to tell you this factually as I can from what was stated, that, you know, the perpetrator acting alone with dexterity, you know, that whole chain of events. They talk about that the killer would go from Libby's body back to the F tree. Well, many speculate that they were probably actually killed closer to the F tree and then moved to this tree. And they're not that far apart. And that was one of the rumors I needed to put down on the list, FYI, was the tree actually cut down. But I'll do that later. Just sometimes my memory just jogs. I'm like, oh, hey. But yes, there's 2 trees involved. The one the one by her hand, and then the F tree that I believe is over here.
Okay. Okay, interesting. So she's not reaching out to touch the F tree.
No.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, so let me see what else, other questions they had in here real quick. I wanted to ask the ones who've seen the pics but felt it was inappropriate to ask if they saw the dangling branches. No one discussed it. There's actually two. There's two dangling branches. So there's this one that ended up in the description or in the depictions of the bodies. There's also another one. The angle is also, the only other thing I would say is the angle of the girls is a little different. Abby's head is a little bit more over here. I don't know if that means anything. It's still a V shape, but it's just a little bit more over here. And then there's another branch in between them. So there's the one that's in the forefront here and another one that's in the forefront here. There's two. There's two.
Okay.
Okay, let me see. Music says everything I've learned tells me this was not a sophisticated Odin. I think that's kind of the general consensus with the professionals as well. Okay, so Fiend, hi Fiend. My question is why a Hegel interpretation would be preferred over the bind rune combination of Issa and Gibo. And I'm probably not saying those right, but that's my best interpretation.
Yeah, that's a great question. It could be that. See, we don't really know.
Let me see if I can pull up that one. Because of the Brad Holder photo.
Right.
I'm sure you guys probably know which one I'm talking about. I'm going to let this load, see if I can actually pull it up or not. Everything's like loading. It might take a minute. So if it comes up, I'll pull it up. But because he has that he drew on his hand, and he talks about it being Gibo and Issa.
Right. To slow down the gifts that were coming to him.
Correct. Because he wrecked his truck, and I just want to make sure everybody else can see what we're talking about. So can you, what are your thoughts on why would it be a Hegel and not the Issa Gibo?
Yeah, so for me, I was trying to stick with just finding one rune. And the reason for that, and it can totally be the Issa, exactly what she's pointing out right there. But it can totally be, that could be the Hoggle rune too. If it's Issa and Gabo, I still think that everything should be considered. And I don't think there is one definitive way of reading it unless we get into the minds of the people making it and laying it out. But for my own sake, I think I tried to stick to one rune for the stick and for the stick configuration on the girls, and one rune for the way that they were posed, instead of trying to get into finding all the possible configurations, because it was already going to be very confusing to show people just the one rune. In my opinion, I felt like it was going to be difficult to show just the one rune, and then to go into, well, actually it could be two runes, or it could be, this whole bind rune. So, I mean, that's an excellent question, and that should totally be factored in too. We just can't know,
Yeah, that would be great, BR. Thank you. Yeah, if you do have a question, if you could put question in front of it so I can easily see it. And even if you're asking while she's talking, I can just grab it and star it really quick.
That'd be perfect. Yeah.
And Sleuthy says, correct, that's why Turco couldn't interpret it either, because only the killer actually knows what he meant by the rune.
Right, exactly. And the thing that was interesting to me too was how you were describing the sticks, well, the branches that had the twigs that come off of them on Libby. That was really interesting to me, because if somebody deliberately picked those out, then those two could be runes. You know what I'm saying?
Themselves?
Like if we go back to the picture that is done by True Crime Design, both the right and left sticks that are on Libby, positioned on Libby, or placed on Libby, like both of those could be runes as well. So.
You mean these? Or are we talking about something else?
Yeah, the sticks, the vertical sticks to the right and left of Libby, like the one that's going over her right is going over her shoulder and her leg. That could also be a rune as well. As well as the other.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it could get really complicated really quickly. And I just needed to show people that it's possible for runes to be there, right? And to me, if they deliberately picked out, especially the sticks on Libby, because they have the twigs coming off of the main branch, then that to me signifies that there was a lot of planning involved. Instead of, I even go through later on in the presentation about if you had a dendrologist or somebody who studied trees come in and look at those sticks and see if they were from similar trees around the area, then it might not mean as much because you could have just picked it up off the ground. But if, say, it's coming from like a tree that doesn't really grow around that area, or, it's definitely sawed off in a certain way, that means that there was even more planning involved, to a point where you would almost have to have those sticks deposited in that location before you committed the crime or near that location. So.
Or you don't think that they would, I mean, they could just find sticks that they could just put together to represent what they want? I mean,
exactly.
That was part of my thing is I don't know if if anybody's actually out there like cutting this or if they're just, it just happens to be one that's out there cut. I mean, there's obviously, there's a ton of twigs and sticks. I mean, they're just everywhere.
Yeah.
So I just grab something, I would assume, but.
Right. Yeah. The easier explanation is that they found them and that maybe we shouldn't read too much into that. But I tried to look at this, like, part of me like gets really angry thinking that I should give these people any sort of credit or this person any sort of credit for anything. But I feel like I'm going to miss out on things that I could have caught if I had not underestimated them, if that makes sense. So I tried to go
rather over a little bit. You keep going and I'm going to take care of a tiny person.
Oh, okay. So do these runes signal which of the girls was targeted and which was sacrificed? That's a great question, Jojo. I don't know. Because as we go through it, and just the way that I interpreted it, because like the previous person had noticed the Issa and the Gabo, the possibilities could be endless, really. There could be a ton of things that we go into, but I think both of them are sacrificed. That's just my personal opinion. There's definitely iconography going on with the way that they position the girls. Not only are there runes and how they position them, but they also have other occult attributions, such as like the tarot cards and stuff. And I know people get sick of hearing that, but Abby is definitely the hanged man, but she's right side up and inverted. And Libby is the magician, but inverted. And we'll also find that a lot of the runes are inverted, that are not only in the posing of the girls, but also the sticks. Some of them are inverted. So, and by that, I just mean the mirror opposite. So I think there's a lot of connection to the Hanged Man and Odin. And Odin, in order to gain the insight of the runes, to gain that wisdom, he hanged himself from a tree for 9 nights. And I think he also stabbed himself with a spear. It's in Old Norse literature, but he did this just so he could obtain the wisdom of the runes. And so if Abby is Odin, then I was like, well, who would be the magician? And Freya would be the magician, because there is, I didn't get a chance to go into it because there's so much to this, but the magician would have been Freya, because there's a magic called Seidr. It's like Seithr, Seidr. And basically only women could do it. And even though Odin was the original one to do it, and men should never do it because it's like looked down upon, Freya ends up getting like predominantly associated with Seidr, and she becomes the #1 magician. And sometimes they do unrobe or undress to be to do their practices. So that was something, but yeah, we can move on. I'm sorry. Just
No,
there's
yeah, you
too
can
much.
keep going. Well,
Okay.
we're just gonna have more questions.
Okay.
So as long as
Yeah.
as long as, I mean, that's not, I mean, it's all so interesting. I mean, you're like teaching a class right now. So I was telling Ryan, like, I was gonna get a question on which one was cut. So I'm just pointing to that one for Ryan. And then,
Okay.
so quick question though too is, if we don't know what stage these photos were taken at. I think that's another big issue in trying to interpret them. Is there has been conversations of, or leaked information that Libby's top half was covered in leaves. Well, the photo, she's not covered in leaves. Then there is some stuff there, but she's not covered in leaves. So is it possible that somebody was already removing parts of the sticks, somebody was removing, or even just the leaves? If there are leaves or were leaves in a prior picture, would that have anything to do with this? Would that mean something? If it was just on Libby's top half, like rumored.
I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. To me, that just goes to like Criminal Minds kind of thing of like, there was probably guilt. I don't know what that would mean symbolically. Yeah, I would have to like really look into it. But that's an excellent question. I should actually write that down.
Yeah, to see if the leaves would have anything to do with anything, if there was leaves.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then we have one more question, then I'm going to catch up with the ones on the bottom. All Eyes on Delphi would like to know, and I think you start talking about this, so I think maybe I'll hold off on this question because you do go into it a little bit. So I'll actually wait on that question. All Eyes on Delphi, don't leave. And hi to everybody that just popped in. I know I don't have a chance to say hi to everybody individually. So, and 4 Pitbulls, I can't make up my damn mind. 4 Pitbulls, that's where I'm stuck at in life. Anything in this Nordic religion that would have anything to do with the clothing, putting clothing on one girl and not clothing on another? Is that brought up? Does it have any significance? Because I mean, obviously we all have theories, and sometimes, some of it's just that they ran across the creek, some clothes were dropped, those are the clothes that are left, and that's what he put on her. Others, there's something to it, or is that more like a Criminal Minds kind of thing versus, and not Criminal Minds the TV show, but like what a criminal is thinking versus actually having anything to do with Nordic religion?
I don't know. So that is an excellent question too. The thing that I heard that kind of made sense was an allusion to when the hunter dresses the animal after they've made the kill. It's called dressing it. Um, you know, again, interesting, but I can't say definitively one way or the other. It does seem though that it looks like, to me, just in my opinion and just from what I've read, it looks like Abby is Odin, and with whatever's going on above her head, I didn't include it in this. I took them out of this
Oh,
presentation just so that um, they
yeah.
we wouldn't get into it too much, but assuming there are twigs or antlers or horns or a halo, whatever the case is, over Abby, um, to me that does signify more of a link to Odin being the chief king of the gods, even though he wasn't really called king of the gods, but he's associated with, the nobility. He, you know, he would be overdressed. He would be more regal in a sense. So the more clothing aspect would kind of match that. So that's kind of what the only thing I can think of, though.
And then the fact that there's some type of, there are sticks there, horns, antlers. I don't see that, but I mean, if you would go with like a even if you thought maybe a crown, it's still not even a crown. I mean, it is like a halo. If anything, maybe crown, maybe halo. I mean, that's a very broad interpretation, but there is sticks there, so it's. Right. I mean, okay, so we'll keep going with that. Aaron wanted to know, Freya is for fertility, correct? You were talking about Freya earlier. I'm way behind on chat.
Yeah, no, that's great. Freya is so there's two different kinds of gods. There's like two different groups of gods. There's the Aesir, and then there's the Vanir. And the Vanir are the fertility gods, and they are more associated with the earth and the fertility of the earth. So Freya is kind of the lead or head goddess of the Vanir or Vanir. I'm going to mispronounce a lot of things, so I'm sorry. But she and her brother Freyr are considered the two top deities, and they're both very much associated with fertility.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then does an inverted? I'll do Sue's question real quick. Does inverted change the meaning of it? Right now, I know you're going to go into that, so you want to just say yes, no, or go a little bit into it.
It depends on what the perpetrator or perpetrators was trying to convey. When you look at a lot of bind runes, they are more design oriented. So it's kind of up to the artist, the person drawing it, to go with what looks good or feels right to them, kind of thing. It's a very intuitive thing. So the inversion can be there, and I've seen it. I mean, quite a bit, but I don't know if it's supposed to be read differently. I don't know if it's trying to mislead by looking incompetent, or like that you don't know the runes as well. It could be saying a lot of different things. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Yeah, definitely.
Because there's so much to interpret. Okay, so I'm just trying to catch up and make sure I have anything. All Eyes on Delphi said the human sacrifices were done nude, but all in nines, I think. You probably know what that means.
In the nines. There's a lot of, so Odin he's associated with the number 9 because he hung on the world tree for 9 nights to sacrifice himself to himself so that he could gain the knowledge of the runes. 9 numerically is a very sacred number because it's like the number of completion, the number of reaching like the highest state of your, I guess like your practice, or you've reached some sort of enlightenment kind of thing. I'm not sure if there's something else to the nines that I should be looking at. But I do think that if they were ritually washed beforehand, they were probably nude, and they were probably maybe still alive before before they were sacrificed, because if they were sacrificed before they were purified, then it might, if you're really looking at it like it's a ritual, then it could sully the sacrifice, so to speak. I'm really sorry. That's horrible.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I understand. Yeah, no, and this isn't your belief. This is what. Just to go back real quick, was Freya Odin's wife?
No, but so scholars, like, they get in these huge fights about this kind of stuff because a lot of people think Freya and Frigga, or Frigg, are one and the same. And Frigg is actually Odin's queen, his wife, even though he has a lot of other dalliances on the side with a bunch of different ladies. But Frigg is supposed to be the queen, and a lot of people think there's enough scholarship there to like bring that question up. But they tend to get on their high horses, and then it just becomes like a whole thing. So that's a great question. I don't know.
Odin took 9 steps and died. I didn't know that. Odin took 9 steps and died. I didn't know that part.
Steps and died. Huh. Oh, at Ragnarok? I mean, he gets devoured by a wolf, and I'm not sure if he like takes 9 steps leading up to the wolf eating him, but sounds funny saying that out loud, but
if you would only do the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe, from Nikola Tesla.
Okay, yeah.
Well, let me go back.
Oops, sorry.
So I know Charlie asked a question, and there are no dumb questions, FYI. So just ask, because I'm going to ask. If there are, then I'm probably going to ask dumb questions too. Is there anything to this Nordic religion that would create some type of virgin sacrifice, or would want a virgin sacrifice?
So historically, it was mostly men that were sacrificed. We see it in the bog bodies all the time. They were usually young men, probably of like aristocratic standing, because they didn't have calluses on their hands, or they were younger. They didn't have, a lot of the signs of like a farmer. You can tell their joints are very worn down and stuff. But basically, it would be very weird to sacrifice young girls to Odin. Weirdly, it would be better to sacrifice white people to Odin, because that's just the whole racial bias right there.
So that's a great point that you brought up. I didn't think about this until somebody actually brought it up on, I don't remember whose stream it was, but the conversation was, why would white supremacists kill 2 white girls when they're the ones who are going to be continuing the white race? You wouldn't kill 2 white girls. And I kind of always just thought, that makes a lot of sense. Why would they? And then somebody made a comment, and I don't remember whose channel it was. It might have been like Sleuth Intuitions. I don't really remember, but they made a comment and they said, who would sacrifice, or that if you were going to sacrifice to Odin, you would only sacrifice a white person, because Odin wouldn't want anything but white then.
Yep.
And I thought, holy
And
shit, that's like so profound. I didn't even think about that.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of, it's really gross. But yeah, that's
it
a
is
whole
really
thing.
gross.
Like,
But I mean,
yep,
well, we're sacrificing
because
anybody. I mean, it's just crazy.
right, they project their values onto the conceptions of what they think the deities are like. So they're like, well, obviously Odin is like me, and I, like the theoretical person doing the sacrifice, like I only think white people are good, so I'm only going to sacrifice that which is good to the god that I honor or whatever. So yeah.
Yes, it's Sleuthy said that was in my own chat. FYI.
Oh,
I don't
cool.
even remember. Okay, so have you heard of any, and this is probably a question for anybody in chat. Charmaine, has anybody heard of any crimes where people are contributing it to some type of Norse pagan anywhere in the country? And anywhere that, does anybody know of a crime that they're like, oh yeah, there's definitely some Norse pagan religion, Odin stuff to go with that?
Well, did you hear about the guy in, I think it was Oregon or Washington State, that he killed 2 people, a horse and a dog, and he attributed it to Odin?
I did. I read the article on the. So it was is that the one that there was 3 guys who like robbed a bank? I don't remember exactly what they did, but they robbed something. I think
Something.
Sleuthy may have said it to me. They did
Yeah.
something, and so the one bad guy was running from the cops. So the cops ended up. They had a shootout with the cops, and so
Okay.
the other bad guy decided to just go randomly sacrifice a horse in honor of his fallen brother that was killed by the police. Is that the same one?
I think so. Yeah. But I haven't heard of anything else outside of it. But then again, there's like, I don't know if you're familiar with, I think it's Dr. Gary Brucato. Um,
Yes.
yeah, he's awesome. And he has talked about ritual homicides before. And they're very interesting because they tend to fly under the radar a lot, which is very bizarre. But yeah, those are the only ones I've heard of about Odin.
Somebody asked, you were talking about this earlier, and I'm sorry to go back to it, but I forgot to ask you when it was up. Is you're talking
Like,
about the purification, that not being able to sacrifice before somebody
right.
is purified. How
Yeah.
is one purified?
So basically, what a lot of people who practice any sort of anything, this can even be Catholics. I've seen Catholics do this too. They tend to fast, or they tend to take like vows of silence, or they get up really early and say really early morning prayers for hours, like on their knees. They do something that puts them in the mindset of something big is going to happen soon. So you're just trying to kind of take yourself out of the mundane routine that you usually do, and you're trying to kind of psych yourself up, I guess, for like going
Whatever
through
the big
with,
thing is.
yeah. So I think if the girls were washed, I don't even know how you would do it before, like, anyway, sorry.
No, keep going. Yeah, no, you're fine.
Oh, well, how would you do that? Because you would want to, in a sense, purify them before you killed them, so that they would be purified to be a pure sacrifice. I don't
But that
even
makes
know
sense
how
of
that.
why. I mean, I know that they talk about that it has a lot to do with nature. This is taking place, in my opinion, intentionally by a creek, out in nature. And would you be able to be purified then in the creek?
Yeah. especially in running water, because, you know, like it's moving over you, it's washing away the impurity. It's, you know, there's a whole bunch of folklore about, you know, magical creatures or creatures of the dead can't cross running water because in a lot of cultures, handling or, you know, being around the dead is taboo. So running water is this very symbolic thing. You know, like in India, they do that all the time. It's all over the world. People do a lot of stuff in moving water to purify.
Hmm. All right, I'm going to ask you one more question. We're going to keep, and then we're going to go back to your slides.
Okay.
But there's a couple of people who've asked, does Odinism, Norse paganism, how does it align with like constellations or anything like that, like Delphinius?
Oh, wow. That's really good. That's a great question. That I
Do
don't
they have a
know.
connection?
I mean, there might be, you know, I wouldn't put it past them. Again, like, yeah, I would always encourage people to look at everything. I don't know of any constellations that are like that. Like Abby, if the horns were more horns, I could see her being associated with like the hunter, like Orion kind of thing. I don't know my stars very well, but who would Libby? Libby could be like, I don't know. Are there any constellations that have to do with probably magic of sorts, some sort of, yeah, some sort of magical practitioner, like a priest, or because I only know it through ancient Greek sources. The little that I know about the stars, a lot of them are based on ancient Greek legends and myths. So that would be really interesting to look into.
Is because I know that there are people who have done like studies of the stars with the constellations, with the fact that it is in the city of Delphi, and like how all that kind of works out. So that's I think a great question is, would those two theories combine in any which way, and if they did, what would that mean? Okay, so we're gonna go back. So sorry, Chad, I'm gonna go back to ignoring you for a hot minute, and we're gonna go back to the next slide. She's got a ton of stuff on here to go through, so
Yeah,
I just want to make sure we don't.
Yeah, we don't have to go through all of that, Teresa, because
We're gonna go through as much as we can though, because there's a lot of stuff here that's good.
Yeah, let's see. Basically, I do encourage people to go and watch the video. It is long-winded. If you have to, probably put it on 1.5. If not, you know, but it does go over the different runic alphabets, how they evolved over time, and I'm just really trying to strictly show how there are so many structural changes to the runes that there was a lot more to encompass. Because when I did the first presentation, I was just basing it off of Elder Futhark, which is kind of the original standard runic alphabet. And
okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about this, just the evolution of runes, and just go over what this is? I thought this was really interesting.
Oh, okay.
I know that you said like go watch the video, but if you want to just touch on it at least.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it basically they can trace the first runic alphabet back to the early centuries of the Common Era. So like around 100 CE, they're finding examples of this Proto-Germanic runic script, and that is what they call the Elder Futhark. There's 24 letters to that alphabet, which is, it coincides pretty nicely to our Latin alphabet, which has the 26 characters. But over time, especially as the Scandinavians are having to go out and they're conducting more raids and becoming more Viking-like, because their land isn't that good, their alphabet gets reduced because they're coming in contact with other languages, and eventually it comes down to the younger Futhark, which then only has 16 characters, or 16 letters, I should say. And in general, people still only use the Elder Futhark predominantly when it comes to being used in a divination system. Like if you're to cast the runes and then try to interpret them, it's generally the Elder Futhark that they will use, but they can also use the younger Futhark. And then on the next slide, there is an example of the Anglo-Saxon Futhark, which is fairly different from the Norse Futharks because it's like the predecessor to Old English, basically. And that alphabet has 28 to 33 different letters associated with it. And the website that helped me a lot with the evolution of the runes was the Scandinavianarchaeology.com, if people are interested. So
you have all down here at the bottom. You have all your sources are in here. So
yeah, I for some reason did not put the what do you call it, the online stuff there. I don't know why, but yeah, I try to put it where I get it strictly online. But yeah, there's a book by R.I. Page. She does, or they do, I don't think it's a she actually. They do really interesting work on like the history of the runes. And I didn't really even get into that. And that's not listed at the bottom, but if people are interested, that's a good scholarly source to go look into.
Okay. All right. So we'll go over here.
Yeah, so the alphabet on the right, on our right, is the Anglo-Saxon Futhark, and that has a lot of runes. So, but I basically wanted to incorporate the most used alphabets that are used in divination today by modern pagans. I wanted to include those 3 alphabets and then show the variations of the different structures of the runes. So that's basically what this is.
So this is let me see if I can go up this way a little bit so you can see all 3 of them. Okay, so walk us through that. Like the 3 runes overlap between these, hence the 18 highlighted runes. Like, can you kind of break that down for us, like what that means?
So
okay.
Basically, if we're beginning with the Elder Futhark because it's the original alphabet, the runic alphabet, and there's 24 letters. The letters, the runes that are highlighted in yellow in the younger and the Anglo-Saxon Futhark, those are all the different structures that are from the Elder Futhark. So we don't find the highlighted yellow ones in the Elder Futhark. So these are all the new different structures. And I also highlighted in green in the Elder Futhark where there can be different structures written for different letters too. Just to show that there's some overlap.
Give me an example of what you're talking about so I can, like, how this one is this one.
Yeah, so are you in the Elder Futhark?
Yeah. Sorry, can you not see my mouse? Okay, yeah, up here. So 5 additional runic forms are these, and they have multiple forms. So this one, or these 2, this one, and this one.
Yep. So basically the Urus, the Hagalas, the Solilal, and the Ingwas all have multiple variations on how they can be drawn. So I wanted to point that out too, because sometimes runes will they overlap. All of those Futharks overlap. So there will be times when you're like, oh, this should all be in the younger Futhark, but for some reason this Elder Futhark rune showed up, and it could be because either they're overlapping in time kind of thing, and not everybody has gotten, the picture, or it could be that it's like another way of writing it in a sense. So
Okay. So
yeah,
what we would typically see now by somebody who was just getting into this, would it just be based on their teacher on where they fall into what they would use, or would everybody just
right.
be using these younger Viking runes?
I think most people are going to use the Elder runes, just because it's so similar to the Latin alphabet. Like I
Mhm.
have Diana Paxson's book here, and she also incorporates the younger runes, but she does it based on the Elder runes, and the younger runes are going to show up in the Elder runes, if that makes sense, because there's only 16 of them,
Okay.
younger runes, but there's 24 elder runes. So everybody that really writes a book on magical divination, they're predominantly working off of the Elder Futhark, or like Freya
Oh, they
Aslan's
are.
book. So most of them will start off with that, unless like the book title is like a comprehensive guide to just the younger Futhark kind of thing.
Okay. So who's typically using these younger Viking runes then? Does that make sense? Is that not a, is that does that
Yeah.
question not even really fit? Does that make
Well,
sense?
if you know like if you're trying to spell something out, and you know what that letter, like the say we're using an S and we're going to use the soul version instead of the Sowilo version. So the soul version is in the younger Viking runes, and then the Sowilo version is in the elder Futhark runes. Um, like that's
So they
just
could use a
another way to write
combination.
it.
So like this, so One
Yeah.
Bad Day comes and says, like, I think the part that you're going wrong is that there's a sect here that just does it their own way. So like each section could just they could take the parts that they want and
Yeah,
use it
they
how they
could,
want
because
to.
like, right, like for instance, like the only reason we know that Holder has the Isa and Gabo is because he says that it's the Isa and Gabo.
It's true.
And he kind of draws it a little off center too, but that could just be him drawing it off center for whatever reason.
It
Um,
does.
but like
The weird
that
thing
could,
about that, I just want to
what's
say
that?
the weird thing about that, the weird part of that is the sticks that are on. Let me see if I can go back up. The sticks that are on Abby, this stick right here, the one that is cut off on the end, is
Yeah.
actually just a tad bit off to the side, just like the one on Brad Holder's hand. Just a
Okay.
tiny bit off to the side. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely could be wildlife. Could be, and we don't know what stage these photos are in, so we don't
Right.
know. I highly doubt, if I
Hmm.
just went with my thought process, that I don't think the defense is going to go, these are the pictures after they took off 7 sticks and this is what the killer thought. That doesn't make sense to me. So I assume
Yeah.
that this is the way the sticks were when the girls were found, but we don't know if there was leaves and the leaves were, there's
Right.
pictures, leaves removed,
Right.
pictures with that,
Yeah.
sticks removed, that kind of thing.
Like,
So, but it
yeah.
is
No, again,
interesting
I
that
think,
is just a tad offset, just like the one on Holder's hand.
okay. I think that's really important to keep in mind too. Like, I would not discard that. There's so many things that are coming up that, like, I think there's a very good argument. Anybody listening to this could be like, well, she's basically saying like she just doesn't know. Like, it could be anything. It could be anything, but it's also very intentionally something. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
Okay.
think seeing it actually really helps to process it a little better.
Oh no, this is helping me tremendously.
Okay.
So One Bad Day said the people who did this perversed the words of real hedonism. This was a ritualistic sacrifice, and I've been tracking this group for over a decade. So One Bad Day, I have to ask. I don't even know if I want to. I don't even know if maybe I shouldn't ask. This particular group, is it like an Indiana group, or is it like a smaller group that happens to have to do with the people that we've talked about from the memo. I know it's okay. I don't know how to say that without being like, is it about these guys or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
He said
That's
there's
a
a
good
beep,
question.
there's been a lot of slayings and abductions that happen here and they get brushed under the rug. No. Ask T.
Yeah.
Okay. This one of the girls. Somebody says ask T. I don't. Veronica, what do you want to ask? What do you want to ask me? Runes never have a squared cross. It's always on a diagonal.
Yeah, that was interesting because you go through it and you can never find a perpendicular. So like when I talk about perpendicular or horizontal, I'm saying like it's still going to be at a diagonal angle. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little bit a lesson about the runes themselves. Okay, you want to touch on this one, or is this kind of what we already talked about?
These are basically just the people that kind of made it cool again to do runes. Sorry, I have a cat that is
Oh, you're fine.
a troublemaker. Okay. But yeah, a lot of these guys are just, they're cool and they made runes cool again. So
that's like this. That's such a like a middle school teacher kind of way to say it. These guys were cool, and they're the ones who made the runes cool again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't say that I'm pretty hip or anything, but yeah.
Okay, so this is also very interesting stuff.
Right. So basically the bind runes are going to be a combination of at least like 2 runes or more. And honestly, like once you combine more than one rune, you can start seeing like a lot of runes. And basically it's just like, what are you willing to read into it? Okay. Yeah. What are you willing to read into it? Because it says like, like if we look at the Bluetooth logo, it's the combination of the hoggle and then the Barkana, but that little part that juts out to the left of it, like behind it, is also a backwards Kenos. So it's just kind of like how deep are you willing to read into it? And bind runes are basically just a way of performing like a magical spell. So it's kind of like people that have like journal, they write their intention and intentions for the day in their journal of what their focus is going to be on. The bind rune could really be that. Like, I would like to have a productive, happy day. And you could use, you know, like a Gabo, Fehu, Sowilo. You know, you could use a lot of different combinations. And basically, for people that are just starting out, they're probably going to draw the bind runes in their most recognizable form. So that's why I'm so torn between the Purdue professor saying that these guys were Odin fanboys, but then also was it that they were incompetent? Were they trying to come across as incompetent, or were they actually incompetent? Like, did they not know which way the runes were meant to be drawn? But yeah, basically just going through this, I kind of did like a little cheat sheet for myself where I went through all 3 of those main alphabets and I tried to find things that were similar. So like the asymmetrical right-facing runes, there were a lot of those guys because to me they all look like they're facing right in a sense. And then the symmetrical side-to-side runes, there were a bunch of those where if you were to flip them on their side or on a vertical axis, they would appear exactly the same. Or basically, if you were to draw it and show it and look at it in the mirror, it would look exactly the same as its original structure. So, and then the guys that I didn't know what else to do with, I just called the asymmetrical undefined orientation, because I honestly I couldn't really tell which way they were meant to be going, but if you were to flip them on their side, it would change the structure. They would not look the same. So, and the next slide will be going over kind of like the inverted, reversed. Reversed is a thing that they talk about in like these books where they call it Merck stave. And it's kind of up to each practitioner to if they want to read that or not, to decide whether or not they're going to read it as reversed or Merck stave, so to speak. But basically, if you're drawing a bind rune, I would think that anything would be possible. But these were just some examples. Like if you were to draw it, or if you were to choose it, like pick it out of a bag, like they're the little discs of runes that look like poker chips. If you were to pick them out of the bag and you were to draw it upside down, that would be considered reversed or Merck stave. Yeah, those guys. Yes. Those guys, if you were to draw them upside down from their original form, that's the Merck stave position. And it's also called reversed. But there are times when they show up in bind runes and they're inverted, and it would be impossible to draw the poker chip or the disc rune. It would be impossible to like pick that out of a bag of runes. It would never show up that way if it had already been predetermined. And that's kind of what I'm trying to show with the cards down here. So I'm using both like the oracle card and the rune disc to show how it would be, you can draw it upside down and stuff as a card, and that's the reverse position, but you can never really select it so that it's inverted. I hope that makes sense. It was kind of tricky.
So if it's a card, is it just because it's in the deck upside down, or is it purposely? Are there different ones in the deck? There's one that's this position, one that is this position, and one that is this position. There's three.
There's only going to be that one card usually. And actually, that would be a really interesting deck of cards if they were to do what you were saying, because that would be really interesting. But pretty much all decks and all sets of runes are just going to have what it looks like in its upright normal position. And then it's up to the practitioner to decide whether or not they're going to read it. If it turns up upside down and they put it down on the table and it's upside down, you can either read that as being reversed in meaning. So like with Fehu, I just used the example of like if Fehu in its upright position means prosperity and good things, then if you draw it reversed, it will tend to mean the opposite. So like not having good prosperity or losing something, so to speak.
Okay, and what if it's inverted or mirrored?
So basically it can be drawn inverted, but it cannot be selected unless you, like, we could never pick that card, that third card out. Yeah, we could never pick that third card out and see it that way, if that makes sense. Unless we're looking at it in the mirror.
Purposely made it that way. If you purposely made one that way, why would you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it could be another form of subversion. If you think about it, like another way of like, it's sleight of hand, or like, it could be artistic license of like, this is how I feel like it should be expressed or something. But I think it's meant to be more subversive if you're intentionally doing it that way. But, you know, I don't necessarily know what that would convey to the person doing it.
So like selfishness, the hanged man reversed would be
Yeah.
selfishness, the crowd, the body politic. This is a halo burning brightly around the hanged man's head, signifying a
Yeah.
higher learning or enlightenment. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out why would you purposely want to do it inverted then? How would that make sense? What would you want? What would you be
Yeah,
looking
because
for by doing that? If you're
yeah.
looking, if I have something and I want the opposite of what I have, it makes sense that I would do it upside down. So would that
Mhm.
also be similar just by doing it backwards or inverted? It's just I want the opposite of this, so I'm just going to go this way.
Right. It could be yeah, exactly. It could be that. It could be, you know how like in math when like two things cancel each other out and therefore it's like the exact same kind of thing. It could be
Yes.
that kind of thing. But it could also be like it could be like a totally different meaning to the person that's doing it. Or like we'll see with like Freya Aswin when she talks about the rune Surisas, which is one of the runes I definitely see in Abby's positioning, the way that she was posed. Freya Aswin says, okay, so you would think Thurisaz has a bad meaning, kind of a negative meaning in its upright position, but in its reverse position, you would think, oh, this is going to be a better meaning. Well, she's like, no, actually, it means like that things get even like worse. So that to me says that like, okay, so then not all the runes upside down necessarily mean the opposite either. So it's this
It means
very
something totally different.
intuitive. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of going back to the whole. It really just is up to the person who's putting it there and how they interpret what the hell they're putting there.
Right. Right.
Okay.
But it's really important for people to see this, to see like because everybody's probably going to have a different way of interpreting this. And if there's enough group thought that can tackle it, I think it can have like probably more meaning with more eyes on it. I don't know how to express that any better.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So here's a couple of good thoughts. So like Radar says, if it's a mirror image, could it be sending the message that the symbol is mirroring its meaning? And then where'd the other one go? Fiend says, if you're reaching between the worlds, they are reflections, thus inverted and not reversed.
I like
That's
that.
deep.
Well, okay, I like that a lot. I'm definitely gonna have to come back and grab that. What was the previous one, T? It was
So if it's a mirror image, could it be sending the message that the symbol is mirroring its meaning?
okay, so logically how would that work? Like if we're using like just say we're using Fehu and we mirror it, does that mean that it's the illusion of Fehu? Is that what's being implied?
Radar's going to have to
Or
answer that one.
okay. Like is there I like the between the worlds, right? It's definitely applicable here. But yeah, that's really interesting.
Fiend Sleuthy sent me one of the books that he was reading, and I was going through it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot to it. Okay, let's see if Radar answers. What if you're viewing? Okay, Sleuthy's got another question. I want to see if Radar answers first.
Okay.
Then I'm going to go to Susie Q's question real quick. This is over my head. Holy cow. It's a lot, right, Dean? So I'm like, she's like teaching us like a college class, I feel like. I'm like, it's so much.
Oh my gosh. And you know, this is like hopefully you guys take a look at the playlist that will like at the end kind of just show what people can watch because like they're way better educated, better informed people than myself that can probably describe a lot of this better too. let's say
Well, you're breaking it down for us in a couple of hours. I mean,
okay. Hopefully.
so Raider says, I agree. I kind of meant the same thing. Like, is mirroring the rune mirroring what it should be, or where it should be? Could it be a sign of what someone's trying to relay? I think I understand.
That's a good question.
Like,
I'm going to have to come back and
the world, like trying to put it out, like this is like what I'm trying to project almost. Okay, let me go back to Susie Q's comment real quick. You mentioned the cards addressed the so-called lack of blood and yellow rope at the scene. Significance of lack of blood with Abby and blood on hands of Libby.
Yeah. So with the cards was, I think they're referring to the tarot cards and how, you know, Abby looks like the Hanged Man and Odin. Libby looks like the Magician and Freya. You know, if it comes out that Abby, I could see a pagan ritual, like collecting the blood even of the girls, but that's speculation. I have no idea. There is a weird thing with rope, and it involves tying an initiate to a tree, and they kind of have to stay out in the woods all night kind of thing. I can't remember if I think that's in one of the sources too, that is in that YouTube list of people to watch, but there is symbolism involved in the rope that's supposed to keep you tied there. It's supposed to be like the length of, or like 3 lengths of your body or your height or something. There's like there's a number attached to it, and that's definitely a thing. The blood on the hands, to me, goes again to kind of like criminal psychology. Like, what Libby had blood on, you know, like, to me, it's just prodding. I think they're like taunting people. I think it's, you know, I don't have a better way of saying it, but I do think that they're poking at us a little bit, but with that, saying like, oh, you know, kind of like trying to put blame back on the people that they killed. And I'm sorry if that, I don't know if that was all of the questions, but.
I took it down. Sorry about that. Yeah. No, yeah, I think so.
No, okay.
I think so. I'm gonna go back to it real quick. I'm just gonna go find it. Significance of the lack of blood. Did we talk about that? And the blood. We talked about the blood. Yeah, the lack of blood. And then it's like, somebody else brought up how sometimes it's collected in like a ceremonial bowl.
Yeah, there's a bloat bowl. Bloat actually does mean blood, and bloat is like, it's a ritual. But again, like, we should not hate on people that practice paganism, heathenry, any of that. Everybody I've ever met has been wonderful. I mean, for the most part that I know of, you know, but that is a thing. And like, if Abby was hung upside down to drain her, it would have been collected in a bowl for the ceremony. And that's why it's confusing. I would think that maybe Libby would have been drained too, because how else are you painting the blood on the tree? But that's all speculation, and you know, that's horrible to think about. So yeah.
Let me go back up to the questions real quick. So when looking at runes, do you only interpret them in the way the photo was taken, or did you also look at it flipped? I think we're going to get to that, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that then.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and
we'll get to that one.
I only looked at it. Yeah, in the way that it was put out to me, because if we were to flip it, then Abby would no longer be the inverted version of the hanged man too. So what if you
Okay, so the pictures, there's more pictures. So I think this is going to be a part of an issue because there's pictures from different directions, but the pictures that are the two main pictures that were put out in this leak, if you will, are it's almost, I hate it. It's almost over the top of Libby, looking down on her.
Oh, okay.
And then the one of Abby is like she's laying. And the photo is from the top of her head going this way.
Okay.
So the photographs are not taken. So I don't know if that matters.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that matters, but I just wanted to let you know that.
No, I mean, that's an excellent point because yeah, the angle from where you're looking, and I didn't even try to go, like, that's another thing, guys. I didn't even try to like flip it upside down because I was like, this is already going to be really difficult to describe right side up, but it should be looked at.
It would matter because there are photos of all different. There's going to be photos from all the different places. So
and they should all be looked at critically in every way, and you could see how that would almost feel like an impossible thing to accomplish, you know.
And then how many more interpretations you get. So Sleuthy asks, what if you're viewing from upside down hanging from the tree? Meaning what view would Odin have? If the sacrifice is to Odin, what would the girls look like to Odin? Which they are in this direction to each other. I mean, they are this way to each other. So I would assume it would have something like that. I don't know.
That's an excellent question. Yeah.
If the sacrifice is to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
okay. So
yeah.
I'm going to go back to All Eyes on Delphi's question then, because this is what I think we're about to get into. No, we're not there yet. Are we into that yet? I think we are. Yes, we are. So she had asked earlier, what do you think about Abby's leg representing an Othala rune?
Okay. The Othala, like,
Othala, sorry.
It seems like it would have to mirror on the other side what it's doing on this one side, how her right leg is underneath her left leg. So there would need to be a mirror of that isosceles triangle, so to speak, to make it Othala, but it can almost be Othala if you are looking at her straight forward. But I mean, that's a great question because I did not consider the combination of the figure rune and the sticks necessarily completely together. And it kind of goes into it a little bit, but I mean, that's always something worth pursuing, is like really seeing how all the different lines interconnect too. So that's a great question. But yeah, I had to like kind of stick with an idea of there's a stick rune, and then there's the figure rune. And basically the way that I did that,
they don't go together. Okay. So I remember, I should have brought that clip up. At the very beginning, when the memo came out, one of the very first experts that went on like court TV, she discussed, that's where the whole thing came from of like, well, not probably for you, but for like me and other like layman's when it came to this, she stated like, you can't just look at the sticks as the runes. You have to look at the bodies as runes also. So then my question is, do the bodies and the sticks become one rune, or do they represent, they would become one because they are put together as one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And that would be the bind rune. And so I kind of was conservative on what I consider to be the figure rune with Abby, because I couldn't see what her arms were doing, so I didn't quite know how to factor that in. But if her arms are also kind of sticking out like her leg is, like her right leg is, and that's
Talking about
kind of
Abby's?
Abby, yeah, sorry. It's Abby's is kind of
Her
sticking
hands
out
are
in
like this.
the isosceles triangle sort of way, with her elbow out and on both sides. That's where you could kind of get the otala, especially with the diagonal stick. Or would it be the diagonal stick? Would it?
Well, technically,
More
would
or
this one be
less,
the
yeah.
diagonal? Okay.
Yeah. So it gets tricky because, like, again, not everything is perfectly lined up. I think there was intentionality with a horizontal stick going over their necks too. So,
Mhm. They
but
both have that, but hers is straight across and hers is more at that angle. Let me
yeah.
answer real quick. I know a lot of people have come in that weren't here at the very beginning.
Okay.
So we'll talk about
Okay.
why
Cool.
there is an amended version.
Okay.
A lot of the pictures or depictions of the crime scene photos have been put out with this stick right here that is being portrayed as being over Abby's right shoulder. It's not actually part of anything on the body. It's from the camera to the photo. The stick is right here. So it's more in the forefront of the photo or the foreground. I don't know which one's the proper way, but like it's in the forefront of the photo. It's not actually, it could be perceived to have been there because of the way that the angle of the photo is taken, but it's not actually on there. So this stick, which is where she had made all the original things that she had put in, included this stick. So when we talked about that, this stick isn't actually there. So anybody who's come in a little bit later and is wondering why there's an amended version, it's to remove this branch is actually hanging in the front next to the camera lens. So she removed it and now has the amended version with an amended presentation and an amended video.
Yeah. Yep. So that's but again, like, whoever brought it up in the very beginning, it could be those sticks on Abby could be now the hoggle, or it could be an Issa and Gabo combination too. But I will say that I wanted to try to keep it as simple as possible by just going with one rune. But again, like, we can't really know, unfortunately. And
Right.
then
I will add, I want to say, because Charmaine just brought it up too. Abby's hair is dry in the photos. So I don't know how you would interpret that because I know a couple people were asking about the possibility with the rope and the upside down. Her hair is dry. Libby's hair appears to be more wet. Now I do not, and Charmaine, I know you're probably with me on that. I don't know if Libby's hair is wet due to the creek or if her hair is wet due to the amount of blood. Sadly, I don't even know how else to say it, but just say it. So, but because she definitely has, obviously, she has more blood than Abby. So, I can't tell you if it's from water or not. I can only tell you that Abby's hair is dry. So the whole upside down, I don't know how her hair wouldn't have more in it unless I don't know. Just take that for what you will.
Yeah. So basically, the stick rune is going to be what the sticks were positioned over the girls, and then the figure rune is going to be how exactly the perpetrator or perpetrators positioned the girls. And
okay, so let's talk about the interpretation of that.
What's that?
I said let's talk about the interpretation of that then. Yeah.
Okay.
Of them together and the separate.
Oh, of them together. let's see, we can go to, I guess if we go to slide 14 of 17, we can see how they
we don't
kind of go
need to skip
together.
that much. We don't need to skip that much. I just meant, yeah, no, we can finish here. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump that
Oh,
far
no,
ahead.
you're fine. You're fine. Sorry.
It's my fault. My fault.
But yeah, well, we can move on from that one. If anybody has any questions, that was just basically my very simple way of trying to see something initially, was coming
Okay.
up with the stick rune versus the figure rune.
Okay.
And then I kind of discuss here how how I found the stick rune for each girl, and you know, I was basically looking at a lot of geometry, and for Abby, there's only one rune out of pretty much all of the 3 alphabet runes. All of the runes within those 3 alphabets that has that 3-line convergent intersection point, and that's the haggle, which is the H version of the Elder Futhark Hagalaz. And then for Libby, many people have pointed this out. I think this is a good call too, if we're including the extension of Libby's left arm, with the inclusion of the sticks, that could also be a Hagalaz. So H and H, but sorry, I'm sorry, guys. Cusa. So if I was just looking at the sticks on Libby, I would see the Uruz rune more so, but there is a drastic overlap here too, where the left stick, our left stick on her that's vertical, it does extend far above that horizontal stick in the middle.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the way that I found it was basically I needed a rune that had 2 vertical sides, and then I needed a line in the middle, kind of. And like another person had commented, there's really no straight, there's no straight line in any of the runes either. So, like a straight horizontal line. So I had to do the best, and Uruz had the least amount of incline, in my opinion. But
Right here.
again, you can see that it's very open to interpretation. And if we did have to take the sticks into consideration, that somebody deliberately picked out like the structure of the sticks based on their structure, it would get way more confusing way faster. So yeah.
Okay, so with this one though, this doesn't include this giant stick.
Right, yeah. So basically, if that's not meant to pin down Libby's arm, that would have to be, to me, it could be the Hagalaz or the Uruz. But then why put 3 smaller size sticks?
Like I said, this stick on Abby, this one right here is also bigger. It's not as big, but it is bigger than the other sticks. So I mean,
Okay.
this one right here is the biggest of all of them. But
okay. And the one that you're talking, that's the one that is like, is it like a limb of a tree, like a big tree?
yes, it's not. I don't even know. It would be if it's a limb, it's big, or it's a smaller tree trunk.
Okay.
It's big.
Okay.
The one on Libby's is big. The one on Abby's is thicker, but not nearly as big as the one on Abby's.
Okay. So you're saying that this middle horizontal stick on Abby, that's or middle vertical stick on Abby is thicker as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to figure out what this would be to go along with this, or could this be a bind rune and have 2 different I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I think that we've kind of determined that it could, like, there's so many possibilities things could just be, because
Right.
it's based on the interpretation. But
Yeah. But again, like, was there, I don't know if there's a practical purpose to have that branch there, but either way, it would still make the urus. It's just what does that other, what does the thinner branch that's vertical on the right side and Libby's left, what does that mean? You know, what would that signify? It's a good question,
yeah, I don't know.
and one that I really didn't have an answer to, because I was kind of taking the sticks that had similar thickness into consideration as being the sticks that were purposely placed over the girls, because they were either pre-selected and deposited before, or they were just found in the area, and then they were meant to represent something. But did the bigger branch need to be put on Libby to keep her arm up? I don't know. Because then why is it so much different than the other sticks? You know?
Okay, so what if anything said, do the larger orangish branches on Libby signify like a pi sign? Resembles the orange barricade that the Nordic crosses were put on.
Oh, that's really interesting. What does that say? Let me see. Some is orange barricade. Huh. I have never.
The orange ones, it does. By orange, is that the? I mean, that's, I don't know, that's the red, or if the orange is just this part.
Yeah, I tried to make the skin color a different color so that it wasn't which shows that it could be significant. Yeah. But I think T, you said that oh my gosh, go away. You said that those smaller branches had that twigs that came off of them.
So this one that goes across here, and this one that goes down, these two little things are part, that's all one stick, and these are coming off of that. So like they're saying, it's like maybe these are the purpose of it, and this one is kind of goes along with what this big stick would also be, and they'd already laid this one down because this one is on top. So maybe it's more about this part.
Okay. So
I don't know.
Even
in the memo, they don't actually talk about the, do they? I'm trying to remember now.
For some reason, I thought they said there were 3 sticks on Libby, but I didn't know. I thought they were just referring to like the 3, like the 2 vertical and the 1 horizontal stick.
No, there's 3, but it's 1, 2, 3. And so this stick is part of this one. These 2 is part of this whole thing. So it's there's 3 on. That's another thing. There's 3 on each girl. But I'm just.
So that's a right angle. That's a right angle there with the horizontal stick connected to the right vertical stick. That's a right angle, and they're connected.
I believe so. If not, I will tell you. I don't remember off the top if it's perfectly at a right angle or not, but I know they're connected.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty darn close. It's pretty darn close to a right angle.
Okay. Yeah, that changes some things.
This is, that's the same one. So this whole thing goes together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that changes some things then, for sure. But then why?
I don't know what if anything, I don't know if I actually have that orange barricade picture handy. I think I have it on my phone somewhere. I don't think I have it on my computer.
Yeah, I wonder what they mean by the orange barricade.
So the barricade at one of the trail entrances was a huge orange, like almost like gate looking barricade type of thing, and they hung a bunch of like Nordic crosses on this barricade, and I don't think anybody paid too much attention to it. Oh goodness.
Oh wow.
I wonder if I can grab them really quick, because it's very interesting, because I know that there's, like I said, I know that there's people who are like, this is absolutely not possible, but
yeah,
they did. There was Nordic crosses that were hanging from this orange barricade, and it got captured by like news footage and by people who just happened to be taking pictures out there. It wasn't, they're in the background. You can see them. You see the big orange barricade, and then you see the crosses hanging on it.
Okay. That's really interesting. That's.
Charmaine says no. Are you talking about me? No to me? They're not Nordic? Are they not Nordic crosses? They are crosses, but they're not Nordic? I don't know who the no goes to.
Okay.
Is it Guitarista? I don't know. Hey mods, is it okay to just slam the empath Milkies? I don't know what the hell that is. Of victims? You may need to retype that, because that doesn't, I don't know what that is. Check my phone. Okay. I'll check my phone.
Yeah. Well, I do
How
think
many soft influenza use when you I don't know what that means. Like the families? No, not at all. To just slam the families? I think maybe that's what that was supposed to be. No, not at all. Has anybody been talking about families? Hold on, checking my phone. Is it in Messenger? You just want me to go find it in my phone.
Go.
No, it's okay, hybrid. Shoot. All right, I don't know. I will find it though, and I'll email it to you. Also, you can see what they're talking about.
Okay.
I was saying it's okay to just slam the gosh darn pop-up. No. The answer to that is no. Okay. Let's go.
Oh no. Hopefully that they're not talking. Yeah.
I don't know who Jack Duty is, but mods, if you guys see a comment like that, just make sure it's deleted, and if it continues after warning them, you can block them for 24 hours or time them out for 24 hours. I hate blocking people. I'd like to give everybody the second chance, but yeah, no. Okay. Hi, Jax. Okay, so we're gonna go. Are you good on this one? You want to go to the next one?
Yeah, we can go. Yeah, we can go. We can go to the next one.
Okay. Okay. What about the shapes of this?
Yeah. So this is like, I did not realize that there was that whole one stick that moves horizontally and vertically on Libby.
This one. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't even know.
Does that change?
It could. I mean, I definitely would have to like relook at it, and that's why I'm grateful.
Are you gonna do another revision?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to revise the revision. Yes, probably.
Revise the revise.
Yes.
If it changes anything, I mean, do we even know if it changes? You think the way you're acting makes me think that something's going to change. That's a big deal.
I don't know for sure. I just was under this. It doesn't change like the shape or the structure that the rune could make, but that's so funny that it could make a right angle like that, if you know what I mean. Like it's just interesting. And then also I didn't know where those twigs coming off the branches, which stick they were coming from. I didn't know if it was coming from the big branch or if it was from the vertical branch, but you've cleared that up for me by just saying that it came from the vertical branch that is also the horizontal branch now too.
Right. This whole thing.
Yeah. And basically, this was just me trying to say, like, I could talk about the shapes of the sticks, but it would be getting into, like, how prepared the perpetrator or perpetrators were to, because obviously, like, you can't carry. So if we're going to believe the prosecution and this happened very quickly within a short amount of time, then how do you carry a gun, a knife, and big sticks with you? You probably don't. And you
There's so
probably
many
have
sticks
them.
out there. I don't think anybody needed to bring any sticks like the defense was
Yeah,
suggesting about the one. I just don't. I think you would
yeah,
be able to. I think you'd be able to find them there. I just do.
right, right.
You got all
And
kinds of
if you,
people out there.
right. And if you were really concerned about it, I think you would bring in a tree specialist, somebody that could tell you if those sticks were not from the area. And I mean, that might be overkill, but at least that way you could know if it was like more predetermined or like more intentional in that aspect.
But I
Um,
also think you'd probably be able to tell like how long ago it was cut too. I mean,
right.
based on, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I don't know. I
Yep.
mean, I don't know if
Well,
Barbara
like,
McDonald is telling. I mean, I think
yeah,
Barbara McDonald is telling the truth about her source, but I think if
yeah,
she's giving, if she was given the accurate
right,
information, they didn't even
right,
take the sticks. We don't even know if they
right.
took the same damn sticks that were on the bodies. Then, if that's the case, we don't know what the hell's being tested. If they
Yeah.
tested anything, I don't know.
I mean, that's all a really good point. And oh, yeah, that, oh, guys, come on. But oh, yeah, I really, I mean, there are shapes in those sticks, those particular sticks, but like, imagine that it didn't happen very quickly. Wouldn't you kind of be out in the dark relatively soon-ish? And it would be hard to find particular sticks that you wanted to use if you needed to put like very particular sticks on them. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
it just becomes
So
like
like,
a level. Yeah,
yeah. So like, would you just go, okay, this stick might work because it has the other stick that I need, and I'll just lay it with,
right,
this stick. If this is what I'm gonna make, then I can just it'll just line up with that and become the same stick, and then these are the important ones because I don't have
right,
time to create what I
right.
exactly want. What I was saying earlier was I don't think the memorandum actually says what they believe the rune on Libby to be. And I was hoping that somebody in chat could correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong, but I think they only talk about the F, and then they talk about the sticks on Abby. I don't think they even discuss
yeah.
what this one is or isn't.
Well, it's tricky because like, are they factoring in those side twigs coming off of them? Because if they are, that gets more difficult. And again, we don't even know if that's intentional. So,
Yeah, the only thing they say is that there's sticks that are in the shape of a V there. They don't talk about what that would be in a rune aspect.
okay. In a V. Okay.
They
So
refer
like
to, yeah,
when,
the sticks are in a V right here.
o- okay. Yeah. You don't really, to me, it looked like an Uruz or a Hagalaz, but I don't
That's
know. Yeah. We
Uruz,
could go on and on forever about that
yeah,
because,
an Uruz or a Hagalas. Okay, now
yeah.
I guess the question would be, I don't know. I'd have to look at it somewhere and see,
Yeah.
like, how
Because
would you lay it
also,
over?
right. I mean, we also have to think about how like they were first laid down. I mean, I don't know if they were dragged there or if they were laid down, but they were intentionally positioned that way. Most likely, I don't think they got that way from being dragged. They could have gotten that way from being dragged. Um, Rick Snay has said for sure they weren't dragged. I don't know if that's true or not, but
What I can tell you is from the pictures, you cannot tell if they were dragged. I don't know
okay,
if
okay,
that's information from him with a source, but in the pictures you can't tell. There's not
okay,
enough there's not enough to see around them, which is why I
Yeah.
couldn't. Like Juan was asking, like about like which direction they're facing. There's no way to tell. I can't tell.
Right. And
If
actually,
somebody is out there and knows, then they might be
Yeah.
able to tell. But
that
from
would be
me
really
looking at a
important.
photo,
Yeah, because if they're facing north, I mean, that's pretty much like the standard for all ritual is to find north and like have your altar set up in kind of that direction.
in
But
true north.
also, I think if anybody can identify the tree that the F is on, I would love to know that information too, like what kind of tree it was. So
Well, that's interesting because a lot of people have been saying that it was cut down, and that's why I was saying that's actually one I need to put on where the heck did that come from.
yeah,
But there is a lot of people saying it was actually the tree was removed. So
okay.
somebody did bring this up earlier, and I forgot to read it in the chat. But like Odin, what about like Odin's spear?
Oh yeah, Gungrenir or something. I can't remember the name of it, but Odin's spear like ended up stabbing Odin so that he could get the runes. So yeah, I mean,
He stabbed somebody so
mean,
he could get the runes.
yeah, he used it to stab himself.
Where
He hung. I don't know what the correct way of saying this is. If he hanged or hung himself. He hanged himself on a tree, and then he also stabbed himself with his own spear. So I don't really know how that happens, but it's significant because the name of the kindred out of Delphi in 2016 and 2017 was the name of that spear. I need to look it up now. I'm gonna probably butcher it.
Okay, somebody says I think the tree. I heard that a while ago though, Sleuthy. I've heard both. That I've heard the tree was taken for a long time.
Yes.
That was back when I was told that the tree was carved into.
Thank you, Richard.
Because then people would go out there and there was no carving in a tree, and so then that's when it had been taken down. So I have no idea. I don't know if it was taken. Let me see.
It'd be interesting because if it was an ash tree, like that Yggdrasil, the world tree, and the tree that Odin hung from was an ash tree. But ash trees aren't like super common in that part of Indiana, or at least like in that area, because like it's kind of a watery area, and trees that would survive would probably be able to withstand like flooding and stuff. So it's not really commonly found down there, but you never know.
Well, that's a flood area.
Yeah.
Down there.
So thank you, Richard, for the Gungnir. That was the name of the kindred, based out of yeah. Your W's.
What about Thor's tree?
Thor's tree. Is Thor's tree an oak tree? I mean, he's usually associated with oaks. And I did see, I mean, I could kind of see trees that I thought looked like white oaks down there, but I don't know the area well enough. So, yeah.
Question. Well, not really. So I went here recently. The property line has been reinforced with wire and purple paint on the trees. Like purple paint on like a lot of the trees, Fiend? Like or purple paint like on the trees surrounding like the property line? That's very interesting.
It could mean it's about trespassing. So when there's purple, it's like they have different different colors that they'll paint or like spray paint on trees to mean certain things. And one of them, the purple, is about keeping out or no trespassing in many states. But I mean, I had to look that up to know that, so I don't know how other people would know that.
You just said it in chat too.
Oh, nice.
Well, he said treasures, but then he fixed it to trespassing.
Yeah, no trespassing. Okay, cool.
Interesting. Erskine said no drag marks or footprints that he saw leading to the bodies.
Okay.
So that's it. This is an interesting thing though, because he actually says that there's no drag marks or footprints that led them to the bodies. That something else is what led them to the bodies. And
Okay.
the way he worded it, I was thinking when he did it, I was like, is he trying to say that there still could be footprints? I don't know. He also says that he left very quickly. Once people came to relieve him, once he called, and then the two officers came, he said he left. He could not be there anymore.
Yeah, I couldn't be there either. And you know, I would not put it past anyone to run up to the girls and check for a pulse, you know? I mean,
Right.
with Libby, I could maybe see them seeing that maybe she was gone, but with Abby, I could totally see somebody like either like throwing branches or leaves off of her and then trying to check for a pulse somewhere and realizing,
On Abby.
you know, oh, I'm contaminating a crime scene. Yeah.
I could see that because Abby looks like she's sleeping.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate it. I hate Mother Dragon. Who's being mean? Somebody better not be being the Mother Dragons. Hi, name's Mama. The FBI knows a lot. Yeah, I believe that too. We paint the trees at the property line purple stripes. I don't know why it's purple, but it is, so that they don't trespass.
Yeah.
Huh. Yoder, one of the first two Ellie to come to the scene. Yes, and the other guy, McClelland's brother-in-law. Well, not really, because they were never married, but pretty sure that's the other guy that was there too.
Oh, wow.
And who had the dog?
Okay.
Whose dog was Grim.
Grim. Okay.
Yeah, that's the dog. His dog's name's Grim. No, that's not the
Wow.
brother-in-law. I lied. The brother-in-law has the dog named Odin. And that's the guy the cop who's there had the dog named Grim. Grim passed away. Not the same guys. I'm mixing shit up in my head. Okay, let's keep going. Because otherwise I'm gonna get totally lost into something else. Okay, so
That's crazy.
We talked about the figure runes, so we can talk about this
Yeah.
yet.
Okay, so yeah, the figure rune was basically just how they were positioned and trying to find the geometry that, you know, like the way that they were positioned, so to speak. But I think now I can see Berkana if I'm willing to be less conservative. I think I can see Berkana now on Abby because it looks like Berkana backwards to me. Because we see Theresa's like with her right leg bent underneath her. That's the isosceles triangle I'm talking about. But with her elbows jutting out that the way they are, even if I can't see exactly what her arms are doing, it's still making that structure. So I can now kind of see a reverse Berkana. But that also means that there's a Wunyo coming out on the other side too. Like with her left side and our right.
This is
But
the Berkana. Is this one?
yeah, so I think like I definitely see Theresa's, but if I'm willing to like not be as picky as I was being with her elbows jutting out the way they are, her right elbow or on our left, like I see that now as being like another isosceles triangle, which could be it would actually be the bottom of the Berkana because the Berkana is upside down, but it to us it will look like the top of the Berkana backwards.
Would it be the Manaz? No, because the sun doesn't have the two sides. Well, no, I guess not. I'm thinking because of the triangle, like a triangle
Right.
and a triangle.
Yeah. And that's why I thought her arms kind of looked like Daga's at first, but now they're like the triangles are pointing outwards instead of pointing in, if that makes sense. And then Libby, her meaning kind of changed because I did find now teas, but reversed. and now tease is from the elder Futhark. But if we look at the younger Futhark, there's actually a rune that's exactly lined up the way that she is lined up, and it's called R. And it actually is like, it means harvest or like yada. So I decided to interpret now tease and R both and just kind of see what they could mean, basically.
Okay.
But then the black cherry tree. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you, Radar, because when I looked through all the this is how nerdy I am. I looked through a ton of trees. Like I looked at all the trees in that north central Indiana that had like that grew near water in that kind of temperate biome, and it looked like a cherry tree. It looked like a plum tree. It looked like it could be a chestnut tree. And those are kind of like my best guesses. But if you're saying a cherry tree, that would actually like be amazing. So thank you. Exciting.
No, they said no receipts, but that's what they had heard. Cherry tree in the middle of the woods. A black would a black cherry tree actually be like would have cherries on it? Like, is that still a cherry? Like, I know that sounds stupid, but not like cherry wood is what I'm kind of thinking. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't. I think they need a more. Well, I don't know. Yeah, don't quote me. I don't know.
Okay.
And then this next slide is basically just Abby's going over like the figure rune that I see with the Thurisaz, and then the Hoggle rune. So we can go to the next one.
That's okay. I want to look more at this too, because the Hoggle rune is the red, and the Thurisaz, which would be thorn.
The blue. Yeah.
Like giant or thorn. Why? How do those become the same? How do those go together? Giant or thorn?
So basically, it means giant in the Old Norse, and it kind of has to do with like, I guess giants were considered really scary and bad, at least for like the main group of gods. And I think giants could like wreak havoc on Earth too, and they were often associated with like natural disasters. So the thorn comes from the Anglo-Saxon interpretation of it, and it's kind of meant to be like one of the most like destructive or not great.
So
runes.
destructive. Giants would be destructive. A giant would be destructive because they're giant and they're going around doing all kinds of gianty things. And then a thorn being considered destructive. Do you know what I mean? Like I could see that being how they. Was trying to figure out how they would go together. That actually makes sense.
Well, and I think too. Yeah, I think they're also associated with like earthquakes or like avalanches or landslide, like just very giant, devastating forces of nature that just happen, and it can be really bad for humans, you know. But yeah, we can go to the next one if you want, T.
Okay, so I want to say first. I want to say thank you to Cindy. Thank you very much. I'm trying to. That's why I'm like, we're just trying to get educated in any and every part of things. She would like to know, and others would probably like to know, is there a way to contribute to you? Do you have for all the work that you've done and put? That's
very sweet. Thank you. I just stay tuned with T, because like at least Teresa, you're at least really helping everybody see things in a better way. You're covering this in a balanced and fair way, and that means so much, especially because it feels like we're probably not going to get justice for Abby and Livy anytime soon, but you know, there's potential that we can at least start looking at people that are looking better for the crime. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's very sweet, Cindy. Just keep coming back to T because she's the best.
Aww.
She's the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, you and
Um,
Lucy and Bob, like you guys are working really hard, and even like I will say Sleuth Intuition, although he doesn't always like agree, he did some really good work with getting those interviews from Patrick Westfall, and he got a
I'm
really
a
great,
Sleuth Intuition fan,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I know that I know that not everybody is, and I know that he's on the boat where he thinks that Richard Allen's the guy. I don't
right,
care. He helps me process. Like
right,
I enjoy listening. He helps me process things when I'm trying to figure out, because like I said, I'm so undecided when it comes to that. I
yeah,
think that my really strong stance on the legal side of things makes it seem like I'm not on the fence, but I really do. I go back and forth every day, and sometimes multiple times a day, on whether I think Richard Allen's just there. There's some. Oh shoot, lost her for a second. Hopefully she didn't lose
I
internet.
think I dropped out. I'm sorry.
There you go. There you are. Hi. No, it's
Okay.
okay. The
Sorry,
cat
my
probably got
internet, like, I might have to go literally sit in a closet right next to the router because it does not like me sometimes. Um, but yeah, can you still hear me okay?
Oh yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
So I know I'm a big fan of Sleuth Intuition. So I mean,
Yeah. And he did really good work with getting, he did great research with getting the interviews from, you know, PW, and then he also did a great interview with Midgard Musings, who's awesome. So, and that was right after the Franks came out, and Midgard Musings was kind of, going over a lot of the symbolism with him. And Sleuth was being very, he's asking good questions, and um, Midgard Musings was, being very forthright. Um, and there's a lot of really good creators that are really trying um, and putting their best foot forward. And I think that does help contribute to some good that can come out of this. So yeah.
so I want to say thank you to Mother of Dragons for the super chat. I really do appreciate that very
Mhm.
much. And then I think there's a couple people who have hopped in a little bit later. So I'm gonna once again I want to talk about why there's an updated version and how there
Okay.
is the
Okay.
stick that a lot of people have seen, which would have been considered to be over Abby's right shoulder,
Hmm.
is not on Abby. So this is an amended presentation. There she had done one with that original, but it's the stick that is being talked about is actually in the forefront of the photo. It is not part of the sticks laid on her or put on her, however, whatever your belief is. And I once again say, like, this is I don't care if you think it had anything to do with Odinism or if you didn't. This is for educational purposes so that everybody can walk away with a little bit more knowledge and understanding and then come to your own conclusion. I respect whatever your conclusion is, each and every one of you. So don't think that because we're talking about it that's just like we're all in on that this is what it is. We're trying, if this is what it is, we're trying to understand it, and I'm trying to become educated and hopefully put it out to more people, just so you can come up with your own thoughts behind it with the actual knowledge, just not just some random off the cuff. I don't care. You're welcome here whether you believe it or not. That's totally fine. So just I want to put that out there. I know there's, like I said, there's a bunch of people who've popped in. I just want everybody to know it's totally okay, no matter what you believe, as long as you're kind. Then kindness goes a really long way with me, more than your beliefs on a case. I that's where I'm at. So your opinion or your theory on a case, I'm good. Just be kind. And then you can believe. Where can we see these? Serendipity. So she has put this on a separate YouTube channel. So I know the mods are dropping your Dark Arts by Adrian YouTube channel. This
Oh yeah.
YouTube link that I just posted in here, and I will put it in the description. that I will put it in the description too, because it is on a separate channel. Just as she was
Yeah.
saying that she wanted to try to keep it separated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what, if anything, wanted me to show you this picture, and you've probably seen it because I think it's been talked about on some other streams, but just wants to know what your thoughts are on the tree behind BG.
Oh, wow. Is
Right
that
here.
is that real?
Yeah.
It looks like a backwards Fehu, but I mean, sticks,
Right.
because of their angular form, you can find a lot of runes. If you look on some of those guys' social media sites, or just their posts and stuff, they show a lot of things that they just randomly come across too. But it does look like a backwards Fehu.
I know, isn't that's just,
Yeah.
The coincidences, and that's the thing, it's like the weird coincidences that come up in this case. It's like,
I know.
seriously, now we're talking about Odinism and we're talking about runes, and then here's an F, like,
right.
and once again, probably means nothing, but
yeah.
Hi Dean, thank you for being here. No, Hybrid, you're fine, because I want people to go to her channel, her Dark Arts by Adrian channel. That's actually what's already tagged in the description, but I know that she put this video up on another channel. So
yeah, if you guys want to see it, it's called Enlight in the Dark, and it's the ENLIGHT in the dark, and that's where it's posted. I mostly like to do like crafty things, and so this is predominantly just this channel that I'm on right now is like actually just like crafty things. So you guys won't find anything fun there. Sorry. Or I guess
so
it's not fun. But.
Here's that one. That's not the right one. I was going to show you the other one. I think it's this one. It's just different people's, screenshots and photos of it. So
yeah.
Don't be.
I mean, it is creepy. It's, but once you get to know the runes, you'll probably start seeing runes everywhere, which is part of the reason that I made the presentation, because it's like, is this just me or is this something real,
So do you want people to subscribe to your crafty channel, or do you want people to subscribe to your enlightened channel?
Probably the Enlight channel. Yeah. Because I've made a playlist there too.
All you wrenches have done the wrong thing all day. And I tagged the wrong one in the chat. That's okay. No, you're fine. I'm going to put both. I should have asked that question.
I should have made it more clear, actually. It's just that you know me as, the Dark Arts. So yeah. I was like, it would be, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's, like I said, that's totally, here's so sub to enlightened. There you go. And then Royal Wee. Okay. Hi, Royal Wee. Says, I like crafting cookies, so I'm good with it. Hi, Oz. I know, I try to tell these dang wrenches over here to drop the enlightened channel, and they're just
perfect.
Don't
you guys are perfect.
I'm so kidding. I am so kidding. Okay, let's go back over here.
Okay. Yeah, we can go on to the.
Where were we? Are we here? No, we already did here. We did here. We did. That's where we left.
There we go. Yep. Yep. Okay. And so we can just. Where we are? If you see on the bottom there, there's those are kind of like what the bind rune would look like, but now I have to take into consideration the Berkana. So, yeah. But that's basically how the bind rune works. If people can kind of see how the blue was the figure rune with the red over it, the red was the stick rune. That's basically like how I was putting together the bind rune. And that, like I would just love to see people's interpretation of it, because I know that I'm just one person and limited. And, the more minds we have working on this, like way more stuff will get accomplished. So. Yeah, we can go to the next one if you want.
So hold on, I want to know. So what would putting these two together mean? If I was to put a I'm not going to say it right, Thurisaz.
Oh yeah, the
Thurisaz?
Thurisaz and the Hoggle
And the
together.
Hegel. What do I
Yeah.
get?
So to me, the way I interpreted it, because here's something that I want to pick people's brains on. Like, if you're using a human being to do some sort of magic and you're taking away their life doing it, are you doing magic to bring in good things for yourself, or are you doing magic to hurt somebody else? Because to me, my mind is just stuck on like, you can only be hurting other people to hurt somebody else. Because if you try to use magic by killing 2 kids, okay, how can that come back as something good for you? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
So like what is like what are they gaining?
Yeah, like, would you, let's say like, let's say you're like in terrible debt or something and you're like desperate and you think, oh, if I offer up 2 young kids to, whatever it is, I'll like, maybe that'll turn the tide for me and I'll get out of debt. Like, to me, I see it more as like, I would only ever do really destructive magic by hurting people or killing them to hurt another human or another person. So that was my mindset when I was looking at this. And so I really felt like the combination of the Hoggle with the Thurisaz was a curse on the land and a curse to somebody that lived on the land or in proximity or the community. It was like a curse on not just the land, but like a curse on the people that lived on the land and maybe even just Delphi in general. But that was just my interpretation of it, because if Hoggle is like the hailstone that destroys things and destroys crops and it physically like hurts the land, and Thurisaz is the giant, which can also do that, but it's also like more symbolic of like you're using you're like fighting fire with fire, or like you're utilizing a giant to fight other giants, but you know that the giant that you're using to fight the other giants is crazy and he might backfire and like hurt you. That's kind of what Thurisaz is. So to me, it was like they were all in, or this person was all in, and they wanted to like really curse somebody. I don't really know how else to explain it. I hope that makes sense. But that was just my
So
interpretation.
right, and well, I mean, it's perfect point of how it is open to interpretation, because it's just like how this was, the Hegel is crisis, cancellation, delay, damage, and then this one's chaos, destruction, devastation, hostility and hostile environment. Like putting those things together, it's how you interpret what those 2 things being together would mean. I think that's kind of the whole point of it. It's really open for interpretation in your thought process and what you think you're going to get back by putting something like this out into the world.
Yeah, because
So
like,
give me one second. I want to say hi to Hunting Evil real quick, and he brought up a good point. And Kyle Stacy, not to throw out more Odin type things, but Kyle Stacy was actually somebody who did also post a bunch of runes on their Facebook, also friends with a prior social media and I in my opinion, POI of law enforcement for a hot minute, who to me sounded very much like Bridge Guy when Matt Sullivan did a comparison of the 2. So I mean, it's just it's interesting how this is this is very, very big in that area, and it's interesting to hear how many people are there that are like, never heard of it, don't know what it is, never heard of it, you know. But
Wow.
it's, as we're going through just the people that we know and have been looked at on the social media side,
Yeah.
how many of them are actually Odin that we didn't pay attention to being Odin
Yeah.
or Norse pagan heathen or any of those.
Yeah.
Um, oh, is it hunting evil? Okay, sorry, I didn't know that. I'm just that's where I heard it, so that's what I was saying. But it's much more predominant. That's not the right word. I don't know. I can't think of the right word that I'm trying to use. But how many people that were looked at as potential persons of interest in the Delphi case that actually have ties to Norse pagan heathenry?
Wow.
And we didn't know that before. I think a lot of people did look at Brad Holder simply because he was Logan's dad. But
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, we should keep that in mind too, that, you know, we only know his name because of the Franks memo and because he was being looked at by law enforcement, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I do think that this person is probably somewhat familiar with Norse Germanic paganism. I think they would have to be. I don't know. But again, I'm biased because I've been looking at this for a long time too.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. And we typically say this, so I will say this again on this live stream. The religion itself isn't what's bad; it's what people decide to do with religion. And we talk about this in
Exactly.
almost every single case that has some type of
Yeah.
there's a fringe or a a person's interpretation. We talk about like Lori and Chad Daybell. They were Mormon. Do I think that this is that they did all that because they're Mormon? No, I think they did that because they created their own beliefs out of their Mormonism. You know what I mean? So, and this is any and all religions have this. This is not
Right.
just, we just happen to be talking about this religion today, but that does, just to make sure that, yeah, not everybody who is who believes and practices Odinism or Norse pagan heathenry or there's an extremism in everything, and not everybody falls into that category. So I want to make sure that is very clear. I do say that there's fanatics in all religions, absolutely.
Right.
So that's another
Yeah.
thing, is you're trying to take something that you learn about as a religion, and then you're trying to take somebody else's interpretation of that's like trying to understand how Lori and Chad Daybell tied Mormonism into what they believed. Do you see what I mean? So it is.
Yeah.
We're taking what you've learned about Odinism or Norse pagan heathenry and all these things, and we're trying to now interpret what this fringe network of people interpreted it as. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yep.
There's no way to do that unless you're part of them.
Right. Right. Yeah, you would have to hang out with them and know, like, just know what they believed in almost, you know?
Right. Okay, so let's keep going, because I know that we've been on here for 2.5 hours. I don't want to keep you all night, but it's so much info.
Yeah, no, and I apologize. Like, I could have reduced it down, but
No.
Oh,
You better stop apologizing, because man, I am so thankful for you. I am so thankful for you.
oh, thank you.
I can't express that enough. Yeah, no, don't. No, this is perfect.
I could never say anything like succinctly. I always say it way too long, but
Nope. I need it. I need to be able to absorb it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of information too. And again, like, how definitive did anything get said here today? Like, there was pretty much nothing definitive that was said. You know what I'm saying?
No, because it's so open. Well, that's why I said, like, say we sat here and tried to have a live on Lori and Chad and come up with what they believed things actually meant. It's very hard. I mean, she came up with weird names for her husband, and he evolved into different levels of zombies. We can only talk about so much of how that actually correlates to anything. You know what I mean? Like, that's not
right.
So, and like I said over and over again in this life, I don't care whether you believe this is what happened. This is purely for education And you can believe
Right.
it. You can walk away with some different beliefs. You can walk away with new information to form opinions
Mhm.
with. That's the point of all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So okay, let's talk about Libby,
Okay. Yeah.
or the
So
sticks on the
this is
face.
basically just a rough outline of what I saw with, you know, not only her figure. It's not, it shouldn't be like her figure. They did this to her. But the rune that I saw in the way that they posed her um, was a now teased inverted or mirrored, and or since I was taking more alphabets and more runes into consideration with the Haggle, I needed to look at other runes and other alphabets besides the Elder Futhark. So I found the R rune in the Younger Futhark. And R is basically just meaning like the harvest. And it's very similar to the Elder Futhark rune Yara. But the stick rune, again, like I even include in here, I'm like, for some reason, I really thought the F tree was the tree that she's almost touching, but I will have to revise that now too, because it says like Libby's raised left arm in order to make it stay in place was the branch, but I didn't know that for sure. So that was a conjecture. But then that she was
And
also
I don't,
touching the F
we won't know
tree.
that.
Yeah.
We won't know whether it was put there, why they put it there, or how it was. I mean, we
Okay.
won't know that part. So, I mean, but it
Yeah.
is, yeah, it is the different tree. So, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
But I said basically I would need to ask the opinion of somebody who's actually seen the crime scene photos. But even then, you know, like if we don't have access to like a bunch of different angles of the crime scene, it would be really difficult to like even know. So, and then the sticks, the best that I could come up with was the inverted urus. But I can also definitely see when people are like, oh, the hagalas could be there too. So. And we can go to the next slide if you
Well,
like.
okay, so I want to go to the same thing though. Putting these together, what could you interpret of those two things? So
Yeah,
if this is that,
yeah.
then it would
So
be strength.
basically, yeah, basically, I was like, it on the next slide. I thought that like the now tees inverted was about being bound or like tied up, constrained. So now tees inverted to me was about being bound or mired in self-sabotage. And then the urus inverted was like for weakness and humiliation. Um, but if I was to switch out R with naughties, the R with the urus could then imply abundance of weakness, humiliation, or physical suffering. And I mean, I'm always going to interpret this kind of more negatively because they killed two children to do this.
Yeah.
It's really hard to like see this as like a positive form of magic. But anyway, yeah, that's basically what I thought of when those two runes were combined.
Okay.
So, and I think that's pretty much it because there's sources. Um, yeah, these were the sources that I used just for the runes at the very end.
Okay, so I want to think. So if hers would be need and necessity. Just a weird side note. My name also means harvest reaper. Just a weird little side note.
That's awesome.
So just harvest made me think of that. Yeah, a harvest reaper. Most places. Nope, we
It's
lost her
better
again.
than
She should be
mine.
coming. There you are.
Yay.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but those two together would be like a need or a necessity. Need and being bound, constraint, distress, hard work, resistance, urgency. it's just also, it's so, I mean, regardless of what we think here, like, it's so interesting to just try to get into what any of this even how to interpret any of this.
It's tricky, you know. Again, like, we can't know why this like did not need to happen. So
Oh gosh, absolutely. I mean, well, I mean, that's how I feel all the time. I feel like for whatever reason, the Audrey Cunningham case that I just covered recently, that case has made me very angry.
yeah,
Like, I have like an anger that I haven't had for a little while when it comes to true crime and just these people and the sick twistedness of all of it. And
yeah,
I can feel the difference since that case, like how I am looking at everything in it, really, because it's made me actually like angry, because
yeah,
these things are so
yeah,
preventable. This one, on the other hand, I
right,
don't know if it's as preventable, because I mean, the girls are just
right,
out being kids, you know. And somebody who
right,
was raised in the Midwest, I was out doing all kinds of crazy shit at 13, 14,
right,
you know. I would have been out on that
yeah,
bridge. At
yeah,
44, I'm not taking a step on that bridge now, but at
yeah,
13, 14, I would have been all over it. I would have been doing
yeah,
just what they were doing. I don't know what they could have done differently to, you know, to avoid something like this necessarily. This is just some either crazy or crazies that just decided that this was what was going to happen to them that day and took their fate into his hands. That's where I'm at with it. You know, and like the Audrey case, I'm just like, that was so preventable, because, and I think that's just made me
that
like
was so
more, it's I
preventable.
have like an anger
Yeah,
about that kind of stuff, you know.
yeah,
But it is, this also, it's tough, because you just have your kids out being kids, out just
right,
doing kid stuff. I won't let my
yeah,
kids won't even play in the front yard by themselves. There has to be
yeah,
an adult out there. Now my older kid can, because he's, you know, almost 16. But as little
yeah,
kids, mm-mm.
no, no, I wouldn't either. I mean, like, yeah, I grew up in the woods. Basically, me and my little brother, we were always in the woods, and it's just like the thing that gets me though is like, why, like, why did this person or people think that, do they really believe in magic? If this was really done for magic, were they really trying to accomplish something, or were they trying to scare the shit out of the community and the people around them? Was this like a very vindictive thing? It just, like, you've traumatized families, you've traumatized communities. Like, nobody's safe. It's in this rural town in Midwest America. It doesn't make any sense. And they had footage. They had video footage. So I don't know.
Kay said, look up Bob Matthews, founder of the order, who studied and practiced a
Oh yeah.
variant of Odinism in the 80s. He and his followers
Yep.
took a blood oath over a 6-week-old baby girl and went on to rob and murder, etc.
Oh, that's creepy. I mean, I know of like the David Lanes and the Yoels or the John Yoels or whatever, but I didn't think people did this. Yeah, I do feel like the kids were targeted too, because can you just really make up that elaborate amount of symbolism on the spot, or am I just reading too much into it too easily? I don't think so, because like, if other people who have no idea about like occult anything are like, wow, those look like tarot cards, then I'm like, yeah, if you can see that, yeah. So
So would you consider, I don't know how to ask this correctly. Would you consider this magic? I mean, like, would they consider this magic? I mean, is that like
that's what I want to know.
it?
Yeah, I
It's
don't
weird,
know,
because like
because
Patrick referred to like Brad Holder coming over and playing Acid True. like,
Yeah.
and like playing it. So like, that's why I'm like, what, I mean, so they're like they're doing magic, they're doing Odinism for like the
Yeah.
day. I mean, that's very
Right.
different than having like a belief in that's your,
Right.
like, I don't go play Christianity. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't
You-
just choose like today I'm going to go play that. I guess, I mean, maybe if you think that if I'm going to go play it, then that's when I go to church on Sunday or something. Then am I playing it
Yeah.
that day? I don't know what that means. So that's why I'm asking, like, what would would it
I
be?
could see
Go ahead.
I could see it being magic if it's like an initiation of sorts and they're going through the process of like what a ritual would look like. But like again, what are you trying to accomplish? You're not going to bring something good in for yourself by murdering 2 children. If anything, you could curse people with that, but like it's just, to me, it's like it was a message meant for somebody very particular. Like it could have been meant for somebody in the community that also practiced some form of heathenry, and they were trying to like leave a very disturbing message. But then again, how could they foresee that the police were going to keep it under such, lock and key that it wouldn't really get back to people, at least not for like 6.5 years. So I don't know. There's so many things to think about, and it's so frustrating because like if you really believe in magic that's gonna do something, I don't know. It just goes around and around and around. So
So one of the questions is, and we kind of talked about this earlier, is like, what is like, is there a history of anything, other crimes like this, anything like this in the United States to compare it to? Obviously, we know that it's got a bigger history overseas, but is there anything like this? And then so we were talking about, like, there's this one cultish aspect of it where they did have that blood oath over a baby. We've talked about, who was the one you just referred to? I'm gonna not say his name correctly, probably. The guy that you were
was
just referring to, who was
it David Lane, or well, I think that was a different guy.
that was a different guy.
Yeah, I forget his name. Bob Matthews.
Bob
Right?
Matthews. Yeah, that one. Yep.
Okay. But like,
So I think that there
Gary
is. I don't know if there's anything like what we're looking at now. Zodiac, technically, as well. I mean, there's definitely aspects to that. So I think that there's types that are similar, just nothing that we can say like, oh yeah, this specific group of people went and did.
Right. Basically, like
Aaron,
these people probably had a really good understanding of like at least probably some Norse Germanic paganism, and then also the occult. Just my opinion, but like, and if you're not doing it for magical reasonings, like you're doing it to terrorize, because anytime anybody gets a hint of like there's a rumor of it being a ritual, it's terrifying, Like, what are you supposed to do with your kids? Like, you can't, I don't know. I don't know.
I agree. I mean, especially when you have evil that you can't even wrap your mind around when it comes to
Right.
just people you think are normal people, much less evil
Right.
that is playing out in a religious aspect. So,
Yeah.
like I've said to everybody, this is about information. It's about taking
Yeah.
the information. I don't care whether you believe it. I don't care what it does to your own personal theories. I don't care. It's literally about delivering information so we can better understand, to make our own decisions and our own judgments on things. That's what it's about. So you take it for
Yeah.
what you want.
Yeah.
People totally play Christianity magic if you believe communion is literally the body and blood of Christ. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
It is. You believe
Yeah.
in magic. Well, That's like a make-believe almost. You believe in the
Yeah.
make-believe of.
Well, you're supposed to, as a good Catholic, you're supposed to believe that. But I mean, oh dear. I'm sorry, I have a bad kitty. Oh,
All religions include a little magic.
yep. Well, and that's really what the occult comes from. You know, anytime there's like this kind of undercurrent or this side project or like this group of people who are trying to subvert, you know, the original meaning of something or trying to find like a deeper meaning in something, they're marginalized and they're on the fringes. And, you know, sometimes it's deliberately that way, but that is really what the occult ends up being. So all religions have their version of it. Hidden knowledge. Yep. Yep.
All right.
And your
So does
chat is
anybody
so
in the
like,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you're
Well, I
good.
was just gonna say your chat is so knowledgeable. Like they just already know this stuff.
I know, that's why you had to come on and teach me though.
Oh my gosh. No. Probably.
So does anybody in the chat have any other questions for Adrian? I know we've been on almost 3 hours, so we're gonna wrap it up. I think I'll just email you if I have more questions. So,
Okay. Yeah, that'd be fun.
but if you guys in chat, you guys have any other questions before we wrap it up, I want to make sure that you guys are able to ask them. Hi, Travis. Bob Matthews, like Robert J. Matthews, he wasn't an Odinist. He started the order, was a neo-Nazi. When I was involved in West Memphis 3 case, the head of FBI BSU unit was no documented case of a ritual killing. Okay.
Yeah, so that's something that I've heard a lot, and that's why, like, when I listen to Gary Bricado, he actually has done extensive research into it, and there's just not been a consensus or a standardization of what or of how you like determine what is ritual and, you know, ritual homicide and that kind of thing. And I recommend anybody really interested in ritual homicide, kind of morbid, but Dawn Perlmutter is amazing. She's, you know, pretty much kind of the lead person that has done research on it. It's DAWN, Dawn Perlmutter, and it's PERLMUTTER. So, oh yeah, and T, we can show them too the YouTube sources if they want to like take a look at that.
Oh, the other one?
Yeah, it just like
Put it up there.
YouTube channels that I recommend that would kind of like, if you're looking more into like the Norse paganism kind of stuff, these guys would all be good to look into. So.
And then I'll drop your video. I'm gonna drop the video again. This takes you to the Enlighten channel, the Enlight in the Dark channel. And then there's a playlist on there of Norse Germanic paganism on the Enlight in the Dark channel.
Yeah. Yep. So, and like, I encourage anybody to like, you know, make videos and, or, you know, find ways of sharing your research and what you see, because we're all going to see something different probably.
Right. Well, that's the whole point, was that how much this is open to interpretation and how much
right.
It's only the people who are actually putting the things together know what they're putting together and why they're putting it together and what they're hoping to get out of it.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
you guys, make sure you guys are being nice to each other in chat. Stop that. And Light in the Dark is the name of the YouTube channel. I cannot tell you how thankful I am for you taking the time to do this for us and putting all of this together.
You.
And I mean, this is amazing
thank you
research.
For having me on. Thank you.
No, thank you.
No,
is there anything
this
else?
Has been wonderful.
Any other...
You're reaching a lot of people.
Is there anything that you want to put out there before we end it?
Just I'm very grateful. Thank you for having me on. You know, I genuinely believe that I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I also know that it's very open to interpretation, but I do think with enough people looking at it, we can kind of maybe come to a better idea of maybe what is meant by the whole thing. But again, maybe we're not ever meant to know, which is super frustrating, but it would be good to I tend to think Richard Allen's innocent, and it would be good to find the real people if they're really out there that did this. So
once again, like I said, I can't imagine the amount of time that it took you to put into this. And I know that you're even now you're going like, I'm going to go do more research in some of the things that you've already written down too. So I'm sure we're going to hear more. This is only class 1, people. This is only class 1.
yeah.
So there may be a new revision.
Ending.
Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And Light in the Dark and Light in the Dark, right?
Yeah.
In the Dark. Yeah. I'm like by the dark, for the dark. And Light in the Dark. That is the link. That is the link to the video where she goes over the entire presentation in great detail. So make sure that you guys are subbed over there. She has the playlist, Norse Germanic Paganism. And Adrian, I thank you so very much. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody tonight, and I am going to go make some spaghetti for dinner.
Yeah.
Everybody say thank you to Adrian.
Thank you. Adrian. Bye, guys. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I know you guys, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for taking the time to come here to listen. I really appreciate those of you that were kind to each other in chat. Just make sure that we don't get mad that other people have a different opinion, because it's going to be okay. I promise it won't be the end of the world. So just make sure that you do something kind for somebody today that you wouldn't normally do on another day. And go enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Enjoy your leap day. Enjoy your evening, dinner. It might be your morning time, depending on where you are. I will see you guys. I will probably see you guys tomorrow. So otherwise, good night. Have a good one. See you next time.